Hey folks, welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Rahul from Hycophilic, and this is a documentary on one of my most favorite treks of all time. That is Rupin Pass. But before we go ahead, please don't forget to like the video and hit that subscribe button.
I had spent 4 months preparing and waiting for this trek. Finally, the day was here. The plan was to fly out to Delhi, meet my dad there, take a cab to Shimla together, spend the night there, and start for Rodu the next morning. Even though all of the above fits comfortably into one sentence, taken together it comprises of nearly 16 hours of traveling, so plan accordingly. An alternative could be flying directly to Chandigarh, though flights in this route are fewer and often more expensive. We got to Shimla late at night and started our 3-hour-long journey for Rodu the next morning. After all of that travelling, we finally got to Rodu, only to be picked up by India Hikes for a 6-hour-long bumpy ride to our base camp at Jiskun. We stopped at Chanchal Pass for refreshments, where we met this guy, serving tea and snacks out of the back of his truck. I'll call him Portable Chai Wala. Jiskun was our base camp. Situated at 7,500 feet altitude, it was the last place where we could buy supplies if required. It was also the last point on the trek where we had cellular network. It was also home to this ferocious creature who ruled over the place with his furry paws. His Highness had a busy schedule, but after much persuasion, we did manage to get ourselves an appointment. That is Ritik Bhaiya, giving us a short brief of the trail ahead. He lived in Jhaka, which was to be our next campsite. Dad was in a great mood, as he usually is at the start of any trek. We started at 11, after having breakfast and collecting all the necessary snow gear such as micro spikes and gaiters which would be required in the higher campsites. On our way, we got a sneak peek into what village life was like at Jiskun, but the trail soon led us out of the inhabited areas and into the wilderness. Mules are an important part of the economy here. Without them, any kind of logistics would come to a standstill. The trail would occasionally get a little steep, and having 3 extra kilos of camera gear in my backpack was not helping. Dad was doing great his first day, trotting along always a few steps ahead of me. Jhaka is also known as the Hanging Village. It owes its name to the way it appears to be hanging off the edge of a mountain when viewed from a distance. We arrived at Jhaka around noon, hungry and exhausted.
Which forum is she talking about? I like to be educated.
In the afternoon, we spent some time walking around the village. Ritik Bhaiya told us about the local Kathkuni architecture that helped the buildings withstand earthquakes. We also got to see the famous Kuldevta Mandir of Jhaka. Had an intense staring contest with this little one, but eventually he accepted defeat and left. In the evening, we found ourselves this iconic little temple perched on top of a small hill at the edge of the village. We set out for Sarovar's Thach campsite early the next day. At the start, a good portion of the trail was farmland, lush green and on both sides. Soon after that, the trail entered a pine forest. We were engulfed by a canopy of tall pines on both sides. The surroundings became dark, chilly, and moist. This was where we crossed the Rupin River for the first time, a classic Takeshi's Castle moment. We stopped to fill our water bottles with the fresh glacial water from the Rupin River. Came across this small dhaba along the way. Turned out to be a great place to try some local food. We had to cross this massive patch of snow and boulders before we finally reached the Sarvasthach campsite. My boots without microspikes offered little to no traction. It was quite the wild ride. We were camping right next to the river, which offered a great opportunity for me to try out some long exposure photography with my new Samyang 14mm 2.8. Do let me know what you think in the comment section. We started from Sarvasthach the next morning. It was expected to be an easy day. The distance to be covered was only 3 kilometers and the gradient was going to be relaxed. Or so we thought. It was raining steadily, as is probably evident from the million drops of water that you can see on the screen. This is where we came across the first snow bridge that we had to cross, truly massive and awe-inspiring. The way across was tricky. My videography was constrained to only a few shots here and there. Dhandera's Thach or lower waterfall was a massive campsite. There were multiple teams from multiple adventure companies preparing for their push towards upper waterfall. As soon as I got there, I started setting up my equipment to capture what I had most looked forward to seeing: the iconic triple-tiered waterfall of the Rupin River. In the afternoon, we were introduced to the Indie Hikes technical team who were to lead us the next day in our push towards upper waterfall.
सेकंड में जब वाटरफॉल चढ़ते हैं और एवलांच बर्गलास यही रूपिन पास का सबसे हार्ड पैच है, इसी ने हम लोग तीन बैठाए इधर इंडिया से.
The next day was going to be a long one. So we retired early to get some rest. Say hi to my roomies. We had started feeling the effects of reduced oxygen levels at high altitude. Dad and I were on a preventive course of Diamox to help us stay functional. If you find yourself in a similar situation, remember to drink lots of water and be on the lookout for symptoms such as headaches, nausea, which might be signs of acute mountain sickness or AMS. We woke up the next morning to find half the river valley engulfed in white haze. Visibility had reduced to less than 200 meters. As the day progressed, the haze kept creeping in, until only our bright yellow tents were visible from a distance. They appeared to be floating as if in a sea of white. Around 9 o'clock that day, we made an attempt for Upper Waterfall. It was still snowing quite heavily. On top of that, the path ahead was covered in fresh snow. We had to put on our gaiters to prevent it from getting inside our boots. We came across this massive avalanche section on top of the Rupin Glacier. Gautam Bhaiya from the India Hikes technical team went ahead, nursing the glacier, checking for crevices, finding safe places for us to put our feet, and cutting steps wherever required. I have climbed artificial and natural rocks before, but this was my first time climbing on ice with a pair of ice axes. I think I did a reasonably good job for a first timer. Let me know what you think in the comment section. We couldn't make it to Upper Waterfall that day. After a point, it was no longer safe to keep pushing forward, so we had to take a call and turn back. In the evening, we saw some bharal along the slope of a nearby mountain. It had snowed heavily at the top, so the family had been forced to come down to the lower reaches in search of food. The next morning, it had cleared up. A day too late for us though. We watched as the next few teams prepared for the push towards Upper Waterfall. For us, it was time to head back. That's 4 in the bag for me and Dad. To me, this journey is far from over, so I'll see you again in part 2 of this video when I come back to cross the pass next year. Until then, this is where we part ways. Thank you for your patience.